Newly elected President Thaddeus Ross gets ready to give a victory speech. He takes some medicine and walks to the stage. He addresses the crowd and says the new world is becoming more dangerous with the attack of aliens and the arrival of celestials in the Indian Ocean. But they will overcome any problem together. News is playing about the new president and how he pursues Hulk, resulting in abomination rampage on the city. The incident leads to souring his relationship with his daughter Betty, who is also Hulk/Bruce Banner's girlfriend. Captain America is on a new mission with the U.S. Army in Mexico to retrieve one adamantium stolen by the Serpent Society. Captain America defeats them with his new power, which he got from Wakanda. The gang is running away with the package, but Captain America decides to help the hostage. So he reluctantly sends the new Falcon agent Torres to retrieve it. Serpent gang leader Sidewinder is angry as to why the buyer didn't show up. But Captain America barges in and saves the hostage. He is about to catch Sidewinder, but is attacked by the super soldier. He defeats him, but Sidewinder manages to escape. Elsewhere, Torres retrieved the package. After the mission, Wilson takes Torres to train with Isaiah Bradley, a former super soldier who was illegally detained and experimented on by the U.S. government. Ross calls Wilson and invites him to the Celestial Summit. He accepts on the condition that Bradley and Torres also be invited. They go to the summit, where Ross asks Wilson to reform the Avengers. However, Wilson is reluctant to discuss what happens when they disagree on how to handle the problem. The summit starts, and many world leaders are present. Ross addresses the crowd and says they retrieved the stolen metal adamantium, which was stolen from the Japanese mining operation. To avoid an arms race, he proposes a treaty to govern and distribute adamantium from the Celestial Island, which was formed when the Celestial Tiamat emerged in the Indian Ocean. As he is talking, suddenly Mr. Blue song plays, and Bradley suddenly attacks the president. Several men also start to attack the president. Wilson, Torres, and Ruth, who is a former Black Widow, neutralize the men. But Bradley comes to his senses and runs, but soon gets cornered by police. Wilson comes there and tells him to surrender and he will free him. Wilson goes to Ross, says Bradley is innocent, and asks permission to investigate. However, influenced by Ruth, Ross denies it. So Wilson, with the help of Torres, investigated the matter himself. As he is driving the car, he is attacked by the Sidewinder. While fighting, Sidewinder reveals that he met with the buyer and he offers double the money to kill him. They have an epic fight, but Wilson defeats him. The Sidewinder phone. The buyer calls and says he knew he would defeat the Sidewinder. He also says Ross will get what he deserves. Police take Sidewinder in custody. Wilson gives the phone to Torres, and he locates the call was made from a U.S. black site. They get ready to visit there. Ross is talking to other world leaders, but they don't want to make the treaty anymore because of the recent incident. Ross decides to visit Japan to convince the Japanese minister who was missing in the meeting. He goes to Japan, but the Japanese prime minister accuses him of stealing the adamantium, so he can be posed as a hero, and he breaks the treaty. Wilson and Torres arrive at the U.S. military base. Covertly, they enter the base. They go to a lab and find files of the soldier who was involved in the attack. They also find Ross's medical file and a medicine that Ross was taking earlier. They turn on a computer, and it's Dr. Samuel Stern's lecturing. Suddenly a man comes out of dark, and it's Samuel, who is now completely unrecognizable, and says he predicted all this. Wilson asks why he wants to kill Mr. President. He replies that he doesn't want to kill him. He just wants to show the world who is. He tells Captain America not to intervene, but the captain tries to attack him, and he attacks Captain America and sends his mind control soldier behind him. They defeat them. Ruth also arrives and orders soldiers to stand down, but they attack her so 3 of them can defeat the soldiers. When they get out, they get arrested by police. When Ruth tries to call the president, the music Mr. Blue starts playing. They get mind control, so they attack the soldier and run away from there. Wilson asked for help from U.S. military officer Dunphy. He gave him a medicine saying to check it. Torres blasts Mr. Blue's music to check if anyone is in control of Samuel. Wilson manages a meeting with Sidewinder, and he asks for all the information about Samuel. He tells him in exchange of his reduced sentence that after being exposed to Bruce Banner's blood during Abomination's rampage, he gains advanced intelligence as a result of that. But Ross publicly blamed him for Abomination actions and imprisoned him at this fort. With the help of his power, Ross became president, overcoming all odds and promising him freedom after he became president. Wilson goes to Ruth and says they need to go to the White House and warn Mr. President. When Dunphy says the president is in Japan, Wilson and Torres arrive at the Celestial Island. They, with Ruth, tries to explain the danger they are in, but Ross won't hear anything as he is too busy to capture the Celestial Island. When Wilson says he knows about Samuel, he then tells that Samuel is the one who pays the Serpent Gang to steal the antinym with the money of CIA black site. And he does that with power of mind control. He shows that Samuel has his medical file also, and he may be compromised. Wilson asks how he can have Ross's file if he gives him the access. Ross first denies, saying he may have hacked it, but pressured by Wilson, he confesses that he gave him the information as he was dying, so Samuel gives him the medicine, which keeps him alive. He breaks down and says he wants to prove to his daughter Betty, who is angry with him after the whole incident with Hulk, that he can change into a better person. An officer comes and says one of their pilots has just shot a Japanese plane. Ross in the operating room wonders what they're doing and tells them to come back. But the pilots won't answer when Wilson tells them they may be in control of Samuel. He asks permission to intervene. Ross grants it. Wilson with Torres goes to the sky and tries to explain to the Japanese pilot that it's a misunderstanding, but American planes attack them at the moment. So Japanese planes in return attack the American fleet. American fleet intercept the missile, but two get out, so Wilson and Torres intercept them. Ross tells the Japanese president that the pilot has gone rough and they're being played for war. But the Japanese president won't listen to him. Ross is getting super Tenzined, so get outside, where Samuel calls him and gives in to rage as his legacy will be tarnished now. Ross is changing into Red Hulk slightly. Wilson and Torres are able to neutralize one pilot, but Torres, while intercepting a missile, gets injured and falls to the sea. Wilson tries to help him, but the soldiers say they will rescue him, and he needs to take care of the pilot. Wilson now neutralizes the next pilot. An officer comes and tells Ross that pilots are neutralized and Japanese are also calling off the attacks. Ross calms down and Samuel is angry. Torres is in hospital getting treated and Wilson is watching. Their Buck, who is now running for Congress, comes and give him a pep talk. After he leaves, Ruth comes in when T.V News is playing about Bradley's upcoming trial. Military officer Dunphy is in a training session when one of his friends calls and tells him that the medicine he gave him for testing is loaded with gamma radiation. Dunphy tries to call Wilson when Samuel comes and kills him by a sound wave. Ross is in his office when Agent Tyler comes and says everyone is ready for a press briefing. He calls his daughter Betty and she picks up. He tells her that he has made a lot of mistakes, but he is trying to be a better person. He asks if they can spend some time together. She says yes. Ross then goes to the press meeting where he praises the peace they achieved despite some recent events. Samuel meets with Wilson and tells despite his foil in the Pacific Ocean he will win. He now comes here to turn himself in. He says that he will see what Ross really is when times are tough. Marines come and arrest him when Wilson says Ross has changed and he will prove it. The news reaches the press conference that Samuel is in custody, and he claims that Ross has promised to pardon him if he wins the election. Ross is now in front of some hard questions by journalists. In that moment, the sound box starts playing his and Samuel's conversions. The agent tries to take him away, but Ross gets angry and starts to change. He becomes Red Hulk and starts to attack everyone. Agent tries to stop him, but when Wilson comes there, they fight and destroy half of the White House. Military helicopter also comes there to attack Red Hulk, but Ross completely destroys them. So Wilson takes him away from the crowd. They have an epic fight where Ross breaks one of the wings of Wilson. With one wing special powers, he hit Red Hulk. By the shock, they both get knocked down. Ruth and other agents come and rescue Wilson. Ross is also standing up. He just gets a cut from the attack. This time, Wilson decides to just talk to him. He tells Ross that he knows he makes some mistakes, but he can still change. He knows he wants to change, so it is the time to prove the world to Betty. Ross calms down and comes to his human form. Agent takes him away. Bradley is now free and rejoices with Wilson. The Celestial Island Treaty is also signed by the Congress. Wilson visits Prison Raft and meets with Ross, where he praised him for giving up the presidency and turning himself in. He brings out Betty, who comes to talk to his father. They rejoice with each other. Wilson visits Torres in the hospital, who is now out of danger. In post-credit scenes, Wilson is talking to Samuel, who warned him a new attack is coming from other worlds. So this was the recap of Captain America Brave New World 2025. For more movie recaps like this, check out our channel, and if you like this, you may also like this.